What's up, everybody? My name is Drew, and welcome to Mindful Matters. I am joined by actor and martial artist William Christopher Ford. William, how are you doing today, sir?
My man Drew, what's going on, buddy?
It's good to see you. We met at the season 6 part 3 premiere
Yes.
back
Yeah.
in February. That was a pretty awesome day. That was pretty surreal.
You know what? That was very exciting. I'd never really done a red carpet before, so I was like, "What do I stand? What do I do?" But it was really great. Just ending up right next to in line when we were waiting in the to get in through the back. And I I've heard a lot of good things about you through Ken Cole, and it was just really cool actually being able to meet the Cobra Kai kid in person.
I appreciate that, and same here. Ken. I mean, of course, I've seen you in Karate Kid 3 and Cobra Kai, and
Mm.
even watching your interviews and discussions with Ken. It was really great to meet you, and I'm glad we're doing this now. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and yeah. So today we're gonna be talking about purpose and letting purpose guide you in life. This was
Yes.
a topic that you chose, and I'm just curious, like, what made you want to choose this? Why does this topic resonate with you?
I for a long time I didn't know what my purpose was. I think a lot of people go through life and they're just kind of like not sure why are they here. I think everybody here might be here for a higher purpose, or at the very least, having a direction to go. What is it that you're supposed to do? And I was able to come up with the answer based on a couple of things. One was I started delving into some, self empowerment books many, many years ago, Tony Robbins and Think and Grow Rich, and things like that. And I also had some good teachers who kind of helped me find the way. And I finally came up with something that I think that I can share with people, because sometimes people will say, well, what does that mean, purpose? And it's like, well, it's kind of like, really what you are best suited to do, or what you're meant to do, in this life here on the earth. So that's why I was excited about talking to you about this particular topic, because I use it to guide me in my day-to-day activities, and ultimately, what I want to do for the rest of my life. So that's what I'm here to share with you guys today.
Yeah. Do you remember, like, was there a specific moment where that really started for you, like that journey and really like looking for your purpose?
Well, you get these clues. The thing about a purpose, a goal is something that you have written down and that you want to achieve. And when you take these various steps, right, and you reach your goal, usually hey, I've reached my goal. Let's move on to the next one. And a purpose is something that never can be achieved. You continue to do your purpose every day for the rest of your life, and you can never finish it. But it's through your goals that you can live your purpose, that you can share your purpose. So, for example, I, as you can see, I've got a lot of things having to do with Star Wars. I like superheroes. These are things that I grew up with in my childhood. I've got some Bruce Lee stuff there, Lone Wolf and Cub. So, I'm highly influenced still by things that were introduced to me as a kid. And one of the things is that I feel that if you have an inkling of something very young, it's like, oh, I really love this thing. Sometimes that's a clue. So it can start off with, like, so for instance, I was talking about Star Wars, right? I saw the original Star Wars episode 4 before it was even called episode 4, when it was just called Star Wars, in the theaters in 1977 when it came out. I
Hmm.
was I was taken to the theaters by my classmate whose name is Brian Johnson, and fantastic artist. And I think that was the very first movie I had seen in a movie theater. So
Wow.
can you imagine the impact of like going into a theater and the first thing that you see is Star Wars?
Yeah, this the Star Destroyer, like right.
Yeah.
That's like the first shot of A New Hope.
It's kind of hard to watch a movie after that first experience. And, you know, it was kind of like it started that was sort of the first thing that started my passion for films and for acting.
Mm,
I wanted to be Han Solo, and I wanted to have a ship like the Millennium Falcon. That
yeah.
was that was what's exciting to me. And then shortly thereafter, I was actually introduced to Bruce Lee, and here was a guy who, you know, he changed the world and he changed me, and I wanted to be like him. So those two events really set a fire under me. And I kept going back to things in my life about martial arts and films and acting. And those are the things that really excited me and that I felt passionate about. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do because people around you and sometimes even family were saying, well, that's nice, but what do you want to do? You know, and I think
Mm,
what they're thinking is, what do you want to do with your life? You know, and I knew, well, I'm going to make movies and I'm going to, you know, do martial arts in movies. But I think when you say that to somebody, sometimes even to your parents, you all, you know, they oftentimes they're just worried. They want me. They don't want you to be poor. You
yeah.
know, so they're like, well, yeah, but you know, what do you know, what are you thinking about doing, you know, for a real job, son? You know,
Hmm.
so it was like I kept it a lot to myself because I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to get my you know, have my dreams dashed, right? So, but that thing kept, you know, through high school. I tried out for a play, and it was the role of Kato in the Pink Panther Strikes Again, and I got a chance to play that, and then I started reading books on acting and books on, you know, I always had a big martial arts collection, but you know, I've always been very open to other martial arts as well. So it was just these things just kept, you know, showing up,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like, hey, this is the way, right?
This is the
So
way.
I started to read books by Tony Robbins and, you know, other books like that. They're, you know, they're Think and Grow Rich. I started getting interested in books that, you know, would, you know, teach you how to become successful. You know, one, I learned that success is not measured by money or the things you have. It's, you know, I found that it's by fulfilling my purpose. You know, and
Hmm.
my purpose is another thing that I really like to do is I like to help people. I like to be helpful. So it all lines up, you know. It's like, well, I want to be of service, and I also want to make movies, and I also want to showcase martial arts in these movies in a positive way that helps people. And the thing that I realized was that your purpose is something that probably you've always all you've always been doing it in some form or another ever since you were a little kid. You just didn't realize it, you know.
Hmm.
He was just like, you were just being, and you didn't realize that that was actually a clue to what your purpose is, right? So it's something that you've been doing since you were a kid or younger, right? Even maybe right out of diapers, and it's something that you can never complete. And it's through your goals, through the things that you want to do, that this purpose can be manifested. Or it could just be by you showing up, being Drew or me being William, just being the best version of ourselves. And then are we living on purpose, which is, am I serving people? You know? Um, and the other thing that's a clue is, you know, sometimes people will say, oh, this is connected to what you want to do in your life, you know, like your career and everything. But you can still, I think, do both of those, you know, live your life on purpose, do your job on purpose, right? And I think it's when you like something and you're pretty good at it, and then you do it enough to where you love it and you're excellent at it to the point of where you're passionate about it and you are an expert at it. That is another clue as to what might your purpose be in terms of hey, I'm supposed to be a musician, and with my music, I am going to serve people. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to, make people happy. And I'm not a musician, but I know you are. And I didn't know this until recently. I shook the camera just now, but I didn't know this until recently because I've only known you as the Cobra Kai Kid. And that's very, very one-dimensional, right? It's like, oh, Drew, he's great. He's the Cobra Kai Kid, right? And it's like, wait a second, this dude plays the guitar and he sings. I saw you had another channel with that stuff on.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're doing this show, which I think is of service to people. So not that I know for sure, but it just seems to me that you are following your passion, and it's somehow connected to your purpose. Some would say a higher purpose. Now I am not I am not a religious person. I think that I'm a person of I it's a bit cliche, but I'm going to say it anyways. I am a spiritual person, but
Mhm.
I've also got a heavy dose of skepticism too, and I have been on record by, saying, I really don't know, because I went to a Christian school, and I came from Christianity, and I moved the other direction. Right. And so sometimes I'm like, I don't really believe that anymore. But then sometimes I'm just like, maybe I do. Because how do you explain that?
Mhm.
It's like, so I'm still kind of like, yeah, I still got, I still have faith. I just don't like to admit it sometimes. But I think that you look like you are following your purpose, and you're living your life on purpose. And I don't know, maybe you can clear that up, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, well, first off, I appreciate the kind words. Ever since I was a kid, like
Mm.
music and film, like, similar to how you saw Star Wars when you
Yeah.
were young, and that was like what did it for you. I think Star Wars was one of the first things for me.
Mm.
Um, I don't really have that exact moment that I remember seeing it and being like, I want to do this, but it was just this overall um feeling of like, watching Star Wars and then Indiana Jones and
Oh yeah.
those sorts of movies. And like,
Mm.
um for me, it was definitely like the filmmaking side was just like,
Mm.
wow, I love this. And I didn't even know that, it was a job. I didn't know that this is a career path. So it was just something I just wanted to do. And I just, with my friends, we would just do these little sketches. And like, that was like,
Mm.
7-year-old Drew, like that was my purpose. I didn't really know it, but that was what I enjoyed doing. And
Mm.
I've also grown up with music. So I've had a lot of different outlets that have brought me joy. And that's something I've tried to like, remind myself that it doesn't just have to be one thing. Like I don't have to have one purpose, just this one
Mm.
thing that I've set on. Like I can do multiple things. And I think it's important, like with my music, I don't expect to do that as a career. I don't expect that to make money with the mindfulness channel. I don't care if this channel turns into something where I'm making money off of it. Obviously I would have to find, a job to make money and
Sure.
support myself. But I'm so passionate about mental health and talking about it. And I'm so
Mm.
passionate about music that I want to do it no matter what, even if there's no revenue that comes from it, because
Mm.
that's not, like the joy comes from just doing it.
Mm.
So, even if like I'm super busy, with whatever job and, making a living, like I will try always to like have those other passions in my life because that's what makes me happy. And I feel like
Mm.
without those, it's kind of just then it's just work and then sleep and then just I don't know. Like I like to do things that bring me joy and that just keep me going. And like yeah, music, talking about mental health, filmmaking, um, and I do believe that when you're doing what you love, it could be hard work, but it's also at the same time it doesn't always feel like work. Sometimes that saying, it's if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I mean, it's still work though. You know that. I know you love what you do, but it's still I'm sure it's still a lot.
Yeah, you still have to put forth effort, that's for sure, but
Yeah.
it's, again, when you can come back to purpose, it helps you to, it reminds you that, hey, I am living my life on purpose and I'm getting to do what I am absolutely passionate about, and that's what kind of makes it fun, right? It doesn't feel like work. Sometimes it does feel like it at the end of the day. You're like, woo, that was a long day, but
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of like, well, would I be doing, happy doing anything else? Maybe, but probably not.
Hmm.
Let me ask you a question. Who were some of your musical influences? Who were some of your favorite artists?
Yeah. Well, growing up, um, this might sound kind of crazy, but in first grade, I discovered Bon Jovi.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Great.
So I was like the only kid in my grade who knew who Bon Jovi was and was
Mhm.
listening to his music. My guitar teacher introduced me to him,
He's a New Jersey guy, right?
and he's a New Jersey guy just like
Yeah.
me. So
That's cool, man.
and John Bon Jovi is a really great human being too.
Mm.
Um, he's never, like you hear like the stories about like different like musicians and artists, like, and that like going through certain things. Like he's always like he's been with his high school sweetheart. They've been married all these years. Um, he's always been good and stayed out of like the Hollywood controversy, and
Mm.
so he's definitely been a big influence. And then also recently, there's this artist. His name is Joshua Bassett. He's like this like smaller indie artist, but his music has really inspired me. And he also he really inspired me with his music. But then he started to talk about mental health and
Mm.
open up. And when I saw a figure like him, who I already looked up to, sharing about his struggles, on surface, you look at someone like that and I'm like, wow, this guy has a great voice. He's acting, does music. Like that's the life that I want. But then then he opens up about like real personal things. And it just,
Mm.
I remember, I think I discovered him when I was about like 16, 17 years old. And that was when I really learned, okay, not everybody, like, you really can't just judge someone based off of what you think, everybody goes through their own thing. So that was a big inspiration for me.
In terms of music, it's funny because there is a song by Bon Jovi called "It's My Life,"
It's
and
my life.
yeah, and I absolutely love that song,
Yeah.
and it's in my top 10 list probably of like all-time favorite songs, but especially when I need encouragement or inspiration, that's one of my go-tos. And I love that he always mentions Tommy and Gina, and I guess
Tommy and Gina.
Tommy is like him, right? And Gina is his wife. It seems like
Yeah.
like it's sort of like a metaphor for his own life. But yeah, I dig that dude. And other influences, in terms of just music, I like the Wu-Tang Clan, and I like Bruce Springsteen, also a New Jersey
New
guy.
Jersey.
You
Yeah.
know, my music taste is very, very varied. Probably my all-time favorite is a guy named Sam Cooke, who was he just had a divine voice. He was an artist during the '60s, and he was actually he met an early demise, and just had a beautiful voice that was just uh, Sam Cooke. Oh my God! And he was also very, very heavily into the civil rights movement at the time, even though he's not known for that. He's not remembered for that. But guys like that. And in terms of filmmakers, I like Chinese cinema. So there's like Hong Kong films.
Mhm.
There's a John Woo, and there was an actor, a director during the '70s named Lar Kao Leong, and he directed a movie called The 36th Chamber of Shaolin, amongst other things. And then like modern day directors, I like the Spielberg stuff. Robert Zemeckis' Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
There's an action director named Antoine Fuqua who directed the Equalizer movies. And then David Leitch, who directed Bullet Train, and then there's a director named Sam Hargrave who started out as a stunt guy, became a kind of a stunt coordinator, started directing second unit stuff for big movies, even like Avengers Endgame. Like he directed like the second unit. He was one of those directors. And then he directed a movie called Extraction and Extraction 2, which is on Netflix, starring Chris Hemsworth. And because of his stunt background, he knows how to film fights in a very, very satisfying way where you can see the action and it's satisfying, but it's very, very cinematic and entertaining. So I love his work, and that's the kind of filmmaker that I would like to be, where I can capture the action and it feels very, very visceral, but at the same time you can see. I'm not a fan of like real quick cuts and choppy editing, because it's like, I want to see the technique. I grew up in the Bruce Lee era. I want to see the person do it, and sometimes sometimes it's chopped up because one, it's an artistic choice. Sometimes the editor or director or cinematographer isn't used to filming action, and they don't necessarily understand that it's kind of its own beast sometimes. And then sometimes it's because of time constraints, and sometimes it's because the actors don't look that athletic, and they even though you might have a stunt double, you still have to cut it up in order for the footage to match. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to like show the technique, and again, fulfilling my purpose through that is, this is how I'm going to be of service to my audience. And martial artists and stunt people, we were always, especially the stunt guys, stunt people, men and women, we always have this complaint. It's like, the fight that we thought we shot was not the fight the audience got. So we get excited about it, and it's like, oh my God, this is such a great fight. And then you kind of see it and you're going, oh, that's what they shot, or that's what we ended up with. So I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but that's again been a part of my purpose. I think what you're doing is great. I loved your interview with Vanessa.
Oh, thank you.
I met her on set in Atlanta when I worked on Cobra Kai. I actually met her my very first day on set, and that was the day that I shot the fight scene with Ralph after he escapes from the dog cages. And I think the episode was called Dog in the Fight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I met her, and she was very kind. I did not get a chance to talk to her. I being back after 35 years, I'm not part of the cast in terms of like, these people have been together for several seasons. They're like family. I'm brought in as sort of a hired gun, and there's everyone has to stay on schedule, so you don't have necessarily time to hang around and just get to know somebody. But my impression of her right away was like she was a very kind person, and I liked her very much, and I was excited to see her talk about her wanting to direct again, and things like that. So I'm so glad that you were able to talk to her, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other people that you're going to pull into your show.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like a blessing, like getting to have that channel and like meet like all these different people like you and Vanessa, through it, because if it wasn't for Karate Kid, if it wasn't for Cobra Kai, and here we are talking about something that has nothing to do with Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, but like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. So it's like, everything happens for a reason, and I'm thankful for that.
I like to believe that, and I know I like to believe that ultimately that reason somehow serves us, even though we may not see it at the moment, because it's very easy for us to be like, oh, why is this happening to me? Why?
Yeah.
No.
No, I am your father.
No. But sometimes there's an old expression: God's delays are not God's denials. Which means what? You can't see it yet. And just because you're not getting what you want when you want it, stop whining, stop being a baby. And I'm talking about myself, because they're like, but I want it now. It's like, but I want to be in Cobra Kai, and it's like, no. John, Josh, and Hayden had a different plan for me. You know what I mean? It's like, no, hang on. So sometimes you have to wait to get what you want. And sometimes what you want is not what you need, and it doesn't serve purpose. You know what I mean? And sometimes you get what you want, and you're like, oh man, be careful what you wish for. I wish I never wished that. You know?
Yeah.
But I think it's important to, look at things and what can we learn from this? Those are the questions that I ask. Okay, why is this happening? Okay, but a better question is, what can I learn from this? What's good about this? You know, because if you just say why, then your mind will come up with a million different answers. Why am I doing this? And then your mind goes, because you're an idiot. But if you say, this is interesting. I wonder why. I wonder what could be a higher purpose for this. How does this serve my purpose? How is this going to serve me and other people later on? It's happening for a reason. I don't know what, but I'm going to find out. And at the end of the day, I like to believe that it's for something positive, even though it may seem like it's something super negative, at the time.
Yeah. I want to ask you, in terms of acting, when you are actually like on set filming and like, acting as your character, is that alone is that like your purpose alone, or like do you need to how do I say this? Like then like when the product comes out and seeing the audience reaction, or does that bring you purpose? Is it the acting itself, or like how it resonates with others? Does that make sense?
For me, I know it's exciting. Everybody wants to see when is it going to come out and see the finished product, and then you hope that the audience likes it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that, I hope the audience is going to be excited about Dennis returning, and I hope they're going to be excited about learning his last name and all that stuff.
Oh, they
But
did.
while I'm there, I just have such a feeling of gratitude, like it's almost surreal. Like I cannot believe that I am here on set right now, because it's always such a privilege to be able to do what you want to do. And and you can do it even on a smaller film, but sometimes there's something cool about being invited to the big show. It's like, oh, this is exciting. But I enjoy the process. I enjoy the process of actually like coming up with, okay, what is my character's purpose, or what is my purpose as Dennis de Guzman? I think about that. Okay, what would my reaction be to this thing happening? What is my relationship to these people around me? How would I feel about that? And I try to come up with that. And then when it's time to roll camera, you may not even be thinking about that, but all that stuff's kind of playing in underneath and in the background, and it gives a. I like to think that it gives character depth. And Dennis de Guzman is not somebody who I had a lot to go off of based on Karate Kid 3, right? There's nothing there that gives you any real clue. So it's up to me to figure out what his backstory is, what
Yeah.
motivates him. And he's not a villain in his own eyes, and there's nobody's a villain in their own eyes. What drives this guy? What
Yeah.
and for me, it was his loyalty to Terry Silver, because I had created a story that Terry saved his life, and that's why he never ever turned away from him, and they always kept in touch for 35 years. But that's a story for another day, when I'm on your other show.
Which we got to
So
do. We definitely got to do that.
I wanted to touch on that briefly, real quickly, though. You told me that you started because you loved Cobra Kai, and you just started filming stuff in your closet or in your room or whatever, just because you wanted to create a community that of other people who loved Cobra Kai. And I think that is amazing, because community is something that I like to talk about also, because I truly believe that when you have a community of like-minded individuals who all are serving not only their own purpose, but the purpose of the community,
Mm-hmm.
then that's the key to true freedom. You don't have to worry about, well, is Netflix going to hire me, or am I going to get another job? And it's like, well, what's your purpose? And it's like, well, my purpose is to serve the people, and through film, through martial arts. Okay, can I do that on my own? Yes. Does that mean that I'm going to, does it mean I'm going to be on Netflix or any other platform? Not necessarily, but I'm so acting on purpose and being able to get fulfilled creatively and otherwise. So I think that what that became is, all of a sudden now Cobra Kai Kid is a thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, you're going to be on the Cobra Kai Kid show. That's a thing. You know what I mean? And you're part of this whole, you're part of the Miyagi verse on the fandom side of it too. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Thank you. No,
You know,
yeah.
and then I've met other creators, who've become friends with. Ken is one. There's another Drew that I don't know if you know, Drew Holly. He's a friend of Ken's.
Yes. Yeah.
Love that dude. There's Peter Vosenak. Um, what is his name? Shamoon.
Shamoon. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been really cool to me. And apologies, to anybody else that I forgot. But just there's, you guys are, living on purpose. And it's great to see that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. No, those are all great people too. And yeah, we definitely found purpose with the show and through our content. And yeah, I wanted to ask you too, because sometimes people out there finding purpose is not as simple. Like, sometimes we know when we're a kid and we watch a movie, this is what we want to do. But sometimes, people as a kid, they're not sure what they want to do. And then even as they grow older, they don't know. So how would you what's your advice for finding purpose if you don't know what your purpose is?
Yeah, that could be challenging, and here's something that's going to throw a monkey wrench into the works. What if your purpose is to find, look for your purpose?
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah.
Like that could be translated as, what my purpose is to be the best student possibly that I can, and just to continue to go out and learn things and everything. And it's like, well, what's your purpose? That's my purpose.
Yeah, that's a good purpose. That's pretty cool to keep growing,
Yeah. I think, sometimes people will say, well, my purpose is to serve God, and it's like, and they might argue that that's everybody's purpose. It's like, well, maybe, I mean, and if that's somebody's purpose, great. But I don't necessarily think that that's my purpose in that specific way. I might be doing that, but through my main purpose. I think that in order to help people find their purpose, again, it's kind of like, like we were saying, okay, what have I always been doing and what have I always loved? And, how can I make that something that, okay, if I can't make money from it, can I still be of service? Like how does that fit into the big scheme of things? That's a big clue, but it's hard. Like, how do you find your purpose? And then you find out, well, what am I doing now? And it's like, is this fulfilling? Oftentimes your purpose, you'll find a sense of fulfillment from it, and oftentimes you will see physical proof in the world that you're fulfilling your purpose. It's like, okay. And, you're getting the feedback, you're feeling good about it. And it's like, I think that this is what I'm meant to do, and again, it's not just doing a job or achieving a goal. It's fulfilling this lifelong purpose that never ends until you die, and that's kind of a clue to that. And I like to believe that, and not everybody in the world, we live in a really, really crazy world that's just scary. I don't necessarily agree with some people think that their purpose is like, to take over the world or whatever. It's like, I don't know if that's serving a higher purpose. That's serving your selfish purpose.
Yeah.
So for me, a guideline is how does it serve others? Is it just self-serving, or is there a greater benefit to it? And I always go back to service. That's like sort of my baseline, and that helps me. The other thing I came up with is interesting because it just so happens that I wanted to be able to like put it into like 6 words, And I actually came up with this, the letter of the alphabet that defines what my purpose is encapsulated in the letter E. You know,
Hmm.
like E for excellent, or E for um, evolving. Evolution, right? So the first word I came up with is to engage, and that means I come up to somebody and go, "Hey, how are you, Drew? Nice to meet you, man. Hey, tell me about yourself, and how can I be of service to you?" So I'm engaging with you. I'm not. I. It doesn't mean I have to be a total extrovert. It doesn't mean that I have to go out there and be like, life of the party or whatever, right?
Hmm.
But it means that I'm willing to engage with you on some level, and an engagement might mean just to acknowledge you, acknowledge the divine being that I see in you, and respect that. And it
Yeah.
doesn't even have to necessarily be a conversation. It could be something as simple as, you know, a nod or a wave, but that's engagement. We're engaging with our fellow beings.
And when we met in Los Angeles, that was like, I remember, I don't remember everything that we talked about, but I just remember that feeling. You were like so engaged with the conversation. Like, I was so excited to see you, and you were like just as receptive to me. So I could tell you personally that I definitely felt that from you. So
Well, you're the Cobra Kai kid, man. Whatever. But I'm genuinely interested in people, and
Mhm.
here's what I want. I tell this to all my students, Drew. I want this for everybody. I want everybody to be healthy,
Mhm.
mentally, emotionally, physically, perhaps even spiritually, right? That's the first thing. That's the baseline.
Mhm.
And then I also want them to be happy. So the two H's, healthy and happy. And it's hard to be happy if you're not healthy. Health is kind of like, that's got to be top priority. We have to take care of ourselves. Um, the other four are, I want my kids to be strong, safe, secure, and successful. So that's what I want for you. That's what I want for me, and that's what I want for everybody. I walk into the room trying to, okay, if I'm living on purpose, I want to show up as the best possible version of myself. So not that I'm putting on an act, but you know, you might catch me on a bad day, but I'm hoping that you know Drew's going to meet me and go, "Hey, we had a brief exchange, but yeah, I felt some powerful energy there, and I felt good." It was like he looked me in the eye, and he acknowledged me, and and it's true, because I truly care about people. I really try to see people. I don't I don't. It's not like, don't you know who I am? How dare you not let me in the room for free? Don't you know who I am? you know.
Yeah.
So that's the first E, engagement, right? The
Mhm.
second one for me is um, elevation. I want to elevate somebody.
Mm.
So I'm engaging with you, and I'm also elevating you. I want to raise you up. Again, by service. How can I help you? How can I be of service? And that just might be me listening to you, me making eye contact, me truly being interested in who you are. So that's number two. Number three is education. That's what I do. I educate people through my martial arts, and what I want to do with my film is also to be educational without being boring, without being preachy, without uh, talking down to somebody. It's like, hey, here's an idea, and I want to present it in the fourth E, which is an entertaining way. Like, I don't want to be boring. That's a sin for me, I want to be engaging, and I want to elevate people. I want to educate them, and I want to do it in an entertaining way.
Mm.
And the fifth one is, I want to empower people. I cannot do that. I can empower myself, and it's through my empowerment, and hopefully my words, my actions, that people feel empowered to empower themselves. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
sometimes we tend to look to role models and mentors. I want that person to empower me. And yes, we can be inspired by somebody, we can get motivated by somebody, but I cannot give you the stuff that's inside. You have to empower yourself, through belief and faith and passion, and
Mm-hmm.
living your life on purpose, And the last one I believe is evolution. I want to continue to evolve as a being, a spiritual being in a human body, being able to evolve and be better, so that I can live a better life. Again, in service of my community and of the people on the planet. So that kind of sums it up in a nutshell. I came up with other words, but those are the ones kind of at the top of my list, and it just kind of helps. It helps keep the conversation going.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So wait, can you go through, just list the 6 E's one more time?
Oh no!
Oh,
No!
wait. I got you. Engage,
Engage,
elevate,
elevate,
educate,
educate,
entertain,
entertain,
um,
evolve.
evolve, and
Did I forget the sixth one?
what was the sixth one?
Let's see.
Evolve and um,
There was engage. There was
engage, elevate,
elevate, educate.
educate,
The last one.
entertain,
The last one is empower.
empower,
And
empower,
and
empower.
I can empower myself. I can inspire others. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to empower yourself. With whatever
Yeah.
tools that you acquire. Sometimes talking about mental and emotional health. The internet is a great thing in many ways. It
Mm-hmm.
it has allowed me to create awareness about things I was doing, and it has created opportunity for me. But it can be a Reddit rabbit hole if you are not careful. And, it can be a very toxic place if you allow it to be, So I always recommend people just sort of, always check it. You don't want to be beholden to somebody's comments. You get 9 comments and then you get that one. You're always going to get somebody who's got their own opinion. It might not even be a real human. It might be a bot, right? But you're always going to have your trolls, and you can get all bent out of shape and have your whole day ruined just for like that. And I think, especially when you get dogpiled on, all of a sudden it becomes this, you're being bullied by, by the internet, and so I think it's healthy to take a step back from that, see it for what it is, but don't be so dependent on the likes and the love and the approval, because then it's like, okay, I got to do another piece of content, and I want to get so many likes and I want it to go viral.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be potentially very unhealthy, unless you know what it is. You go, yeah, I put it on there, it's viral, great, and but there are some people that I think have become so dependent on that love and that approval, and it then it becomes about me, and they're getting their esteem from other people rather than something that comes from yourself, and that's vital, I think, for your health.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. When I first started doing YouTube, I wasn't doing the Cobra Kai content. I was just like making like fun shorts for myself. And that was just what I enjoyed doing. And there was a time where I felt, it would be really cool if this whole thing blew up and I could actually do this full time.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I thought that would be awesome. And then but I was struggling with that. And then I just, I made the Cobra Kai channel literally just because I just loved the show and just talk about the show. The goal wasn't to, become a big YouTuber and do all these different things. It was just to express my passion.
Mhm.
And then it ended up being that. And
How did you deal with that? Like when let's say got your first 100,000 subscribers,
yeah.
and YouTube sent you that plaque, which I do not have yet. I'm at like 23,000, so that's something that's like, gosh, that would be kind of cool to have, but I'm wondering what like how did you what was that like for you?
Absolutely crazy, because that was something that it wasn't like it wasn't like I didn't think about it. Oh my god, I never even in the past, I was trying to do YouTube and I was trying to get 100,000 subscribers and get
Nothing
that
wrong with that.
plaque,
Nothing wrong with that.
you
That's great.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a goal. And, it was me making content that I enjoyed making, but also having confidence in it that,
Mm.
that, people out there might want to watch it too. So, um,
Did
yeah,
you, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
oh,
interrupt
no,
you.
no, 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 please, please.
Were you nervous about asking some of the celebrities who were on the show, like approaching them, going, DMing them and going, would you like to be on my show? Were you kind of nervous about that and just, like surprised when some of them went, yeah, dude?
Yeah, that was definitely surreal. Like when I first started doing interviews and talking with the people on the show, I'd
Mm,
never really spoken to, um, I've never done interviews like that and
mm.
spoken to actors in the industry.
Yeah,
And especially because it was my favorite show of all time,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
to talk to people on that show. It didn't matter what role, it didn't matter if it was Ralph Macchio or if it was the extra number 7 in episode 7 who walks
Yeah.
past the in the store. I don't care. It's like
Mm,
everybody, it was so awesome to talk to everybody
mm,
and on each level. And yeah, I've definitely found a lot of purpose in the content. And but I've definitely struggled too with it. Like,
mm.
um my whole thing, when I first started, I didn't really have, well, when I first started, I didn't have any followers. So I was doing whatever I wanted. And,
Yeah.
I just loved the show. So I was like full out myself. I was, making these parodies and really just geeking out and like, expressing my love. And sometimes I look back on it and I'm like, oh my God, like you're, that's a lot to show on the internet. That's a lot of like authentic. It's like maybe a little too authentic.
It
Like
is,
it was
but you
like,
know what? That's what people were attracted to for in the beginning. You know what? It's like, you know
yeah,
what? This dude he doesn't care. He
yeah.
is being himself. He's showing up in his own authentic self. And people love that. And you created a community, around
Thank
that,
you, thank you.
and that's
Yeah.
really cool. And, it's funny because I was watching,
Oh no.
when Cobra Kai season 6, part 2 came out, I looked at you were doing kind of not a reaction show. You were kind of doing a review, a non-spoiler review. I'm not sure, but and then you were like, and then, oh my God, when I saw William Christopher Ford come back as Dennis the Guzman, and I was like, wait, what? You said my name? He knows who I am?
Of course. Oh my God. Wait, that
Yeah.
was my spoiler review of season
Oh yeah,
6?
spoiler, right?
Oh
I
my
think it
God.
was. I think it was. And John and Josh had basically said, "Hey, just kind of keep it under wraps because we really don't want anybody to know that you're in the show." And they're saying, "Look, we know that 99% of the people don't remember who you are, but there is a hardcore group of fans who know every character from every movie, from every show, and they will definitely know who you are." And
Yeah.
sure enough, they purposely kept me out of trailers and things like that because they were like, no, we really want this to be kind of like an out of left field surprise.
Hmm.
But that night when that episode aired, I was getting messages from like Belgium and England, and they're going, dude, and people were saying, "Oh my God!" We started jumping up and down and saying, "It's Dennis! It's Dennis!"
Oh
And
my God. That's so nice. And yeah, the way they did it too was like, it wasn't like the reveal didn't come right away. Like I knew who you were, you know.
Mhm.
So like right away, I'm like, that's William Ford, that's Dennis. Terry Silver's behind this. But for those who didn't know, it's not like when you first came in, they had the flashbacks. They saved
Yeah.
that up. So that was a really cool way of bringing it up. I was so excited to see you in it.
Well, thank you. It was
It's
really
awesome.
nice to be part of it. I was happy the way that they brought me in. It was fun. And have you had a chance to interview Ralph or Billy yet?
I've spoken to them, but not like I haven't had the chance to do like a formal sit down interview. That's definitely one of the goals.
You know what?
So
the difference between Ralph and Billy, based on, and I don't know them very well, but just based on my experiences, that they're both very nice men.
Hmm.
And Billy is just he's very affectionate. He's very out there. He hugs you. He makes you feel like you're his long lost brother.
Yeah, yeah.
He makes you feel just so welcome. Ralph is very nice, but and he's kind. It's just he's not going to give you a big bear hug like he might hug you, but Billy might pick you up and like
Yeah.
like yeah, he's gonna really put you over. Like yeah, this dude is awesome.
Yeah. No, I
you
know
know.
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
They're both family men. I like them both. I'll always be grateful to Ralph for all the things that he's done for me, even though he didn't realize it. But the whole thing about suggesting I get a line in Karate Kid 3, on set, and just he welcomed me back and said, "So nice of you to be willing to come back and do this again." And I'm just like, dude, are you kidding me? He's thanking me, and then I really hope that you get a chance to interview them, because I think you'll enjoy it. I'm, I want to travel to Tennessee because that's where Billy lives, and he's actually a practicing martial artist now, and his kids do it too. I met his sensei, and so I want to go there and with my my producing partner Jim. He's a director and an editor and a filmmaker, and we want to go to Tennessee and film some stuff there with with Billy and his sensei. I think it would be a lot of fun. The guy that I would really like to get, it's funny because I have his number, and sometimes he'll text me back and sometimes not because he's a busy man. But Thomas Ian Griffith, he lives here in LA, but he's been elusive. He'd be like, dude, you are a Taekwondo black belt. You know how to box. That would be the interview of interviews. So I've been kind of like, and I kind of want to reignite 52 Masters because I'm going to be I have the 52nd year in martial arts in next May. So it gives me an excuse to fill in the lost episodes, because I think we fell short. We did about 35. So there were maybe 15 episodes that I could film and not have an excuse because it's like, well, I'm going to do celebrating my 52nd year in the martial arts, right?
Wow.
So I haven't worked up. I mean, I've kind of asked him in the past, and then it's like, oh, I didn't hear from him. So I took that as a no. So I'm kind of working up the courage to say, come on, Thomas, we got to get the band back one more time. The fans want to see me interview you, Come
Yeah.
on, man, do it. Do it for Drew, man. Do it for the Cobra Kai kid.
Drew would love it.
But you've met him, right?
I met him at the premiere.
Yeah.
He was so kind.
Yeah. He's very he's just so talented. He's just got
Yeah.
he can do everything. And he's just got this this presence and this coolness about him.
Yeah.
That that dude is just like if I'm intimidated by anybody in the cast, it's by Thomas. In that sense. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I'm not really intimidated by people so much, but like with Thomas, I'm always like making sure I bow extra. Just because you know of our history and everything, but I respect him as an artist and as a martial artist.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys have had a past going 30 plus years ago,
Yeah,
with Karate Kid 3.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
No,
But
amazing.
it's important to keep it all in perspective, Drew. Because it's very easy to kind of buy into the hype that you think you're all that, and really I'm not. You know what I mean? It's just like, you go back to work, you go back to teaching the kids. That's what keeps me humble. And
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to having other opportunities of playing on the big show. But I know there's also a lot that I want to express, particularly about my martial arts. Not particularly just karate, but you know, I think that there is a desire and a need for people who come from traditional backgrounds like myself to present martial arts in again in using all the e's, right, using all the e's that I use, but in a way that hopefully it empowers people, and it brings it down to what I think martial arts has to be a lot about is respect and discipline, right? Those
Hmm.
are really important things. and being able to empower yourself, not only through martial arts, but how you live your life. So um, I'm looking forward to doing some of that stuff too, and definitely touching upon that. And, you know, perhaps during, the episodes of 52 Masters, something that I could ask all my guests is, what do you think your purpose is in life? Because sometimes when somebody shares their purpose, it might shed light on what somebody else's purpose might be, just like you and I are having this conversation. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what if, because a lot of times, like, we don't pursue our purposes because of fear,
Yeah.
fear of failing, fear of,
fear of success, fear of being laughed at, fear of succeeding. What if I make it? Oh
yeah,
no.
Yeah, what if you actually do succeed? It's like, then what? Then there's more pressure. For me, I'm more scared to succeed than to fail, because, like, if I fail, it's like, okay, I'll just go into my corner, nobody will know. But if I succeed and everybody knows and they're expecting me to keep going and do this thing, then it's like, oh shoot, now I got all these eyes on me. So if fear didn't exist, is there anything that you would pursue?
If fear didn't exist,
is there anything maybe you feel like you're afraid to pursue right now because of fear, or have you grown past that?
Yeah, man. If fear didn't exist, I'd be out there probably. Let's say, man, you know what? I'm gonna go get millions of dollars. I'm gonna go ask for it. I'm gonna go get it, and I'm gonna make my own movies. I'm gonna, if but it's always like, well, what are they saying? What if they don't get it? What are they gonna think about me? And it's like I have to remind myself to get over myself, because I ain't all that. It's like who. Just do it, man. Who do you think you are? It's just like you ain't nobody. Just go. Ask for it. Nobody cares, So you have to kind of get over yourself too sometimes, because sometimes the fear is like, what do people think? But what about my image? And you just got to go, man, screw this, man. Just do what you need to do so that you can accomplish your purpose. And sometimes you need to have, you need some money to be able to do the things that you want, in order to, like, maybe create more massive influence, on a massive scale. You know what I mean? So I think that's the big part of it, is we just got to get over our fear, get over ourselves, and just go for it. I got to take my own advice sometimes, though.
Yeah, no, same here. Sometimes I know what to say, and then it's like,
yeah, because
I got to do that too.
It's easy for me to be here, and be like, well, you know what you got to do, and you know what, this is my sage advice, and it's like, well, maybe this is more for me than it is for anybody else. Maybe the true purpose of me being on the show is to be reminded of what I need to do. So that's what's good about me being able to talk to people like you, is because they're, I'm not here to teach anybody. I'm here to basically remind myself, and hopefully through this public talk that we're having, I will do that. But I'm hoping that somebody will go, yeah, I need to do that too. If William can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't look at it like as, and I always tell people, I'm not a therapist. This isn't like me saying, here, do this, do this, do this. And then you'll find your purpose and you'll be happy and you'll succeed. Like, this is my life experience. It's your life experience. We're just having a conversation and just being open and honest. And hopefully, it can resonate with somebody just from our experiences, or what we feel, what we think. But definitely everybody has their own path. I also feel like sometimes there's a confusion between purpose and pressure. Sometimes we're pressured into doing something that we think this has to be my purpose because I'm being pressured into doing it. How would you differentiate that? And what advice would you give to someone who maybe is feeling pressured into having a certain purpose and kind of navigating that?
You know what? I felt not a lot of pressure, but when my parents were around, and when I was, a teenage guy, not really knowing, it took me a long time to find my path. I didn't really, like, get my bearings until I turned 40 years old. I kind of caught up with myself. My 40s on forward were, I felt much more empowered. My first 40 years, I was still trying to find myself. But the pressure is sometimes, it's like, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing according to, my peer group, my parents, my family, my community. You know, sometimes, but if something is not feeling like it's right, if it feels like, oh my gosh, I just hate this. This is just, you know, is it, and that's kind of a clue that maybe that's not your purpose, you know, because I like to believe that your purpose is going to bring you some joy, and it may not be easy, but it'll be worth it. And at the end, you won't have any regrets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I believe if you are truly living on purpose, a clue that is given is how you feel about it. And usually, I would think that most people feel pretty good about their purpose. You know, it's like, yeah, it's my purpose. It sucks, but you know what? It's my purpose. You know, I mean, I guess, you know, that's obligation and duty, you know, and I respect that. But for me, I want it to be a fun experience, you know, and, you know, I want everybody to be healthy and happy, first of all, you know, so, um, I don't think I can do that. If my purpose is to berate them and to yell at them and to make them feel bad, it's like, I think you need to like read the plan again, dude, because I think your method is not quite reaching people, you know. Then I'm not fulfilling my purpose, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How old are you now, Drew?
I am 22.
Oh, that's a
I'm
good age.
actually, what's today? The 15th. I'm turning 23 in 5 days.
Oh my gosh, you're a December baby.
Yep.
December 20,
December 20th.
December 20th. Okay. My
Yeah.
mom was a Christmas baby. She was born on December 25th. But
Oh, nice.
I hope that you get a lot of birthday gifts as well as Christmas gifts if you celebrate Christmas, you know, because you know, when you get the Christmas babies, oftentimes it's like, you
They
know,
blend together.
hey man, I was guilty, man. It would be like, you know, I'd be like, here you go, mom. Here's your birthday Christmas piggy bank. You
I
know,
know I definitely had that a lot growing up. Now I think as you get older, I don't know, at least for me, I don't really mind anymore. You know, it's holidays, birthday, just it's okay. You
can
know,
you imagine if you were like, if you had a twin, like an identical twin brother, and you were born on December 25th, and you'd be getting like not only a combined Christmas birthday present, but a gift that you would have to share between you two.
okay. No, that would be terrible. Have you ever met anybody in that
I,
situation?
I watched a movie called 8-Bit Christmas that is a really pretty good Christmas movie. Neil Patrick Harris is the star, and
Mm,
but it goes into the flashback and it goes into his life and how he was obsessed with getting this Nintendo. It takes place, I think, during the late 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But there's part of his friend group is this brother and sister. They're twins, and I think they were born on Christmas, and they had to share not only the birthday Christmas, but they had to have like, oh, here's a bike. You have to share it with your brother. You know what I mean? And I
yeah,
just thought
your
that was
birthday
like,
and your Christmas gift.
that's just terrible.
Oh God. Oh
So we're
God.
lucky, man. You know what? We got nothing to complain about. You know, we're life is good. Life is getting better. We get to have this great conversation and share it with the world. You know, and there are going to be people who love it, and there are going to be people who hate it. And God bless them both, because you know what? None of it really matters. You know, I mean, I want all of them, even the people who are hating, to be healthy and happy, and then they won't hate so much anymore. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So.
Yeah.
I think that's how I feel, and that's my
I
story. And I'm sticking to it.
I love that. I love that. And I appreciate you so much for coming on and for sharing your story and for opening up and talking about all this, cuz I always say, you know, it's not easy to, you know, go into your personal life and, say these sorts of things, cuz sometimes it's like, it's these deep conversations, sometimes they're scary to have, but, I think they're going to I think there will be people out there that hear this and that really connect with it and resonate with it. So, I just want to thank you so much
Mm.
for your kindness. And I'm so glad we got to meet at the premiere. And I'm so glad that we got to do this. And, I'm hoping we get to continue having more conversations. You'll have to come onto the other channel, which at the time of recording this, it's Cobra Kai Kid, but I'm about to rebrand it.
So the Cobra Kai man.
To the Cobra Kai. You know who said that actually? Hayden Schlossberg. We were at the Karate Kid musical, and he was like, Drew, I gotta have a talk with you. And he was like, I think he's like, you're turning. This is like before I was 21. He was like, you're turning 21, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I think you gotta be the Cobra Kai man now. And I'm like, Hayden, I think you're a great writer and storyteller, but no.
That's funny. That's like saying like to Robin, Robin is 40 years old and it's like, yo, Robin, bro me. Love you, man. But the green booty shorts, I think they gotta go, brother.
Yeah. I was
so
like,
what's the new branding gonna be?
It's gonna be called Flip the Script, which is actually what they say in Cobra Kai.
Okay, got you.
So it's gonna just be, covering movies and TV in general. So that way, I could still talk about Cobra Kai,
yeah,
but it's not just limited to Cobra Kai. So yeah, so that means if you have anything going on, Cobra Kai outside, now Cobra Kai is done outside of Cobra Kai, we could definitely chat about it on there. That's
dude, I would be honored to be on your show again. You know what? I'm just happy I could say that I knew you when you were the Cobra Kai kid and you were 22 years old, right? So you're going places, man. And it's like, all I want you to do is just hook up your old buddy William at some point, and it's like, dude, can you give me some tickets to your show? Can you hook up an old buddy?
And if
it's been a real pleasure, man. I've definitely learned things from you. You made me think about some things, and I definitely feel more empowered today. Thank you so much for helping me live my purpose. And anytime, brother, anytime you want me on your show, I'm happy to be there. And I'm excited for you and inspired by your success. And it's just going to keep getting better and better.
I appreciate that. And same here. If you ever need anything, let me know.
Well, Jersey is a place that I go to. I got a buddy who owns a school out there, Master Jose Torres, and there are quite a few martial artists out there in Jersey and New York. A lot of great martial artists that I have kind of got my eye on that I want to interview. So I'll make the trip out there, and we'll hang out in Wawa's or something like that.
For sure, we'll definitely do that.
All right, brother.
I appreciate you, William. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And I'll see you soon.
All right. See you soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching. See you next time on Mindful Matters. Bye-bye.